Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with this amazing panel to have a conversation around navigating our identities in the workplace. And more specifically, navigating the workplace as queer Latinx people or just queer people in general. My name is Brian Gonzalez. My pronouns are they, them, and I am honored to be moderating our panel discussion today. I'm currently the director for Alpha Pride in Boston, which is an initiative within Alpha to support our LGBTQ plus members through leadership and professional development opportunities. I want to thank Bank of America and Alpha National for inviting me to moderate. Um, Throughout our panel today, please feel free to drop any questions you might have in the comments. We will definitely have time at the end to answer some of them. Before we start our discussion, why don't we get our panelists today to introduce themselves? If you could all share your name, pronouns, and your current role at Bank of America. Why don't we start with you, Andres?
Thanks, Brian, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andres Fernandez, and my pronouns are he and his, him, I guess. I don't know how many pronouns you're supposed to use, sorry. Uh, I am the lead for financial market utilities at Bank of America. That's we look after the organizations that help us conduct our business on a daily basis, that can help us clear checks, that help us make payments and clear securities and the like. And I've been with the bank for around 34 years.
Thank you. How about Alex?
Hello, everybody. My name is Alex White III. I am currently the Vice President Preferred Lending Market Leader here at Bank of America. I've been with the company now for 8 years and have played in various roles in the consumer channel, from assistant manager to bank manager to leading in the market. So my team and I are responsible for providing clients day-to-day foundational needs around banking. So that consists of a checking account or establishing credit, or even as far as helping them buy a home. So a lot of pride that goes into that. And my pronouns are he, him, his.
Thank you. Eva?
Hi there. Excuse me. I'm Eva Nance. I'm a senior relationship manager in the Global Commercial Bank in South Carolina. And so my team works with large companies in South Carolina, that large being 50 million in revenue size up to 2 billion in revenue size. And I'm the quarterback of the team, bringing together all the product specialists to make Bank of America feel small to our clients, making sure that I can deliver everything they need for those companies, from checking accounts to all the bells and whistles of treasury to foreign exchange, credit, taking company public, etc. So anyway, it's a fun job. I have been with the bank 33 years, all of it here in South Carolina, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Thank you. And last but definitely not least, Juan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juan Garrido, and I lead the product organization and merchant services here at Bank of America. I deal with all clients that have over 5 million in annual revenue. In my day-to-day role, we provide all of the products and services whenever you as a consumer are making payments. So whenever you're going into a website, entering in your credit card number, or whenever you're out eating or you're out shopping and you use your credit or debit card, we do all of the underwriting for the actual merchants, and then we do all the payment processing for them, all the settlement and all that back end work to make commerce happen. I've been with the bank now for 3 years, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get into our conversation. When I think back to my first jobs, I can remember how apprehensive I was about, telling everybody about my queer identity. I know I felt genuinely scared. Years later, as I reflect back, I can't help to think how helpful a panel like this would have been, right? So I'm curious to hear from you. How has your journey looked like? Were you always out? How did your Latinx identity impact this journey? Why don't we start with you, Juan?
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. So to answer your question, no, I was not always out. I was born originally actually in Venezuela, and my parents were very, very religious growing up. So, that's a bit of my background. My dad was the principal at a Seventh-day Adventist school. My mom also worked for the Seventh-day Adventist board. So they were very, very much ingrained in religion. And growing up, that was a big part of me. And being in Venezuela, a very different country, obviously, than the U.S. in terms of the acceptance and being able to be gay, queer within the country was just not as pronounced. And then on top of that, you had a lot of the family values and items that they would bring up in terms of, hey, what would the family say if you were to come out gay? And that was a big item growing up for me as an individual. We left Venezuela when I was 6. So I was still actually very young, and I grew up out here in the States. But even then, I wasn't comfortable being able to have that discussion early on in my childhood with my parents. And it took me a while to actually feel comfortable coming out to them, and also coming out to others outside of even just my immediate family. So in my roles growing up, I kept that to myself, whether it be in the workplace, whether it be with my family, just because there wasn't that comfort level. To add to a little bit of my story coming out, I have an older brother who's also gay. And he came out earlier than I did. I was about 15, 16 at the time. And for my parents, it wasn't easy at first. So that was also part of the reason why it took me a bit of a while to come out. I eventually did when I was 24. My parents have changed drastically. As soon as my brother came out, they were very accepting of it. And now they're huge advocates of us being gay, queer sons of theirs. But it took a while, and I always had in the back of my mind that, my older brother was gay. If I come out as gay, then they're going to come back and be like, well, are we going to get any grandkids, or, what's going to happen next? So, it always made it difficult, and it took me a while. Then when I actually did it, my parents came back to me and say, why didn't you do it any sooner? You should have came to us sooner. You should have told us. We're so close as a family. We tell each other everything. This is such a big component of your life that you should have told us sooner. And then, that really helped me to also gain that confidence in myself to also come out in the workplace and say, I have that support from my family. I have that support from people that are so close around me that it's okay for me to also come out and tell others about my journey and who I am as an individual. And it's made a huge change. I quickly started, bringing my whole self to work, telling people who I was and not hiding that component of my life. So, if I was dating someone, I would tell them about who my partner was and what I did with them that weekend. And you really have the opportunity to get to meet people on a personal level. And that really, really made a difference for me. And it was the support of the family, my friends, that has tremendously changed overall how my career has gone as me as a gay, queer individual.
Thank you. Discovering that I also grew up Seventh-day Adventist, so your story definitely resonates with me. It's a very small world.
Absolutely.
Andres, I'm curious to hear about your experience. How has your journey looked like?
Well, Brian, thanks for that. It's interesting. There's so many parallels in the story that Juan covered. It resonates with me in so many ways. But and yet we're so different, right? Our paths are all so different. Mine, not the least of which, because I probably kind of started on this path probably a few years before Juan. I'm not going to say how many exactly, but probably a couple at least. And I think it's a similar process, right? Make peace with my identity, make peace with my family and friends, and then you think about work. And I think for a long time, in my case, I did something that I think many folks probably used to do. I don't know if it's very prevalent and compartmentalized, right? I said, well, I have my personal life, my private life, it's away from work. And then I have my work life, and that seemed to work for a really long time. But I think you really miss out on connecting with the people you work with, on connecting with your colleagues, and really enjoying the full work experience. If you're deliberately closing off what you did for the weekend, who you're hanging out with, what movies you're watching, what shows you're watching, what sports you're playing, whatever it is. If you close that off, you really are, you're really hurting yourself and hurting others, because you're not fully engaged. You're holding back, and holding back doesn't allow you to participate fully, contribute ideas fully. And so it took a long time for me to get there. I think that I've been with one company for a very long time, and I've seen this company evolve in very significant ways, and to the point where I started getting the signals from people I worked with and worked for that to say it's okay for you to bring your whole self to work. It's okay. And I started seeing the signs in the offices saying I am an ally, and I started feeling comfortable with it. And over time, it became my BAU. This is the way I operate. I am who I am. Everybody that I work with and that I work for is aware of it. I proclaim my sort of out at work status in our internal directory, but it is definitely an evolution, and I think everybody has to take it in their own at their own pace.
Yeah, I think what you just said is really key. The reality is that it's a very different journey for each one of us, though it is similar, right? And for some of us, it may take a little longer, and we need to align a lot of things within our life before we can be authentically ourselves everywhere. But it's also nice to remember that our work lives are a big part of our life, and making sure that you can feel comfortable in bringing your full self is going to be important for your own personal mental health, as well as for the connections and deep connections that we can make in all aspects of our life. But I know that in order to be able to do that, you need to feel comfortable at work. For me, some of that was knowing that my company had very clear policies around non-discrimination, or like you mentioned, people having those stickers sometimes that I'm an ally has been important. But I'm curious to hear about your journeys, Eva and Alex, on how people or policies have been instrumental in helping you be more comfortable at work. Would you like to start, Eva?
Sure. Thank you. And like Andres, I've had 33 years with the bank, so was not out for many, many years of my career, and in South Carolina, a very conservative place as well. But I'll say that, working with a team of people for a number of years who knew my significant other, knew who I lived with, but it was never defined, right? For a number of years. And so I can think of an event that we had. They brought all these people within my line of business, so within the global commercial bank, together in Atlanta from the Southeast. So all of us came in, and the bank did this. We'd been hearing bring your whole self to work, and you think, yeah, I hear you, but they brought in this profession. I'm going to just call them like a professional troupe of actors who took the stage in this big ballroom in Atlanta, and those actors each played roles that we would play on our teams, and they represented all kinds of diversity within the team, and they acted out the kinds of meetings we'd be in, things that might happen, and it was really powerful. And so I rode all the way to Atlanta and back with somebody that was joined at the hip during the workday, worked together so long, had never defined things. And if we hadn't done that day, that's what opened up dialogue with us, which to me was extremely special. And at the same event, I had somebody that I knew who worked in Atlanta just mentioned to me that her brother was gay, and we talked about that some. And so I came out to her And within 2 months, unbeknownst to me, she was in the track to become my manager. So that was the first manager that I had that from the get-go knew that I was gay, knew who my wife was, and it was just a really kind of turning point. And the bank, made that happen by bringing us all together, flying people in, all this, just to talk about it. And to me, that just shows how important, and that the bank is not just saying, bring your whole self to work, go ahead, that they were giving us tools to do it and to be receptive with all kinds of diversity, so that we were better prepared ourselves about what we learned from our own teammates, that kind of thing. So to me, I just can't say enough about what that kind of did for my whole work life.
That sounds amazing. Curious to hear about your experience, Alex.
Yeah, thank you. And this panel, you guys are just amazing. Every time I hear you speak about your stories, it's just so inspiring. And so when I think about a lot of the things that they've said, and in relation to this question, one of the things that I always think about is telling people that it's okay to be uncomfortable. And when you're uncomfortable, it means you're growing in some aspect, right? You think about, I always use metaphors around fitness, right? If you keep lifting the same weight, you're probably not going to see progress. But if you get just a little bit uncomfortable, you'll see a little bit more progress, a little bit more definition. You'll start to be more confident, and so on and so forth. And so I pride myself on really being who I am. I'm myself, right? And when I introduce myself as Alex, I am Alex White. And as you get to know me, you'll learn that I'm a bisexual male, and I have a girlfriend named Keisha. And so all these other things that are about me that are, I consider them features, right? They're not Alex. You just get to know parts of my life. So I don't feel the need to come out, right? I don't feel the need to say, hey, I'm Alex, I'm bisexual. I feel like it's important that we really think about how do we as a community evolve from that and just really be inclusive, right? How do we ensure that we demonstrate that we're people first before anything else? And so that's one of the things. But to the point of what all of my peers have stated, you got to be okay with making peace with friends, making peace with family, and then making peace with making choices. So decide who's a part of your life. Decide who gives you that support, that love, that courage, and so forth. And that's what helps you be comfortable. That's what helps you to be more confident in being yourself. And the beautiful part about all of that is then you start to inspire others, and you start to rally this crowd of people who want to know more and experience more. And then they become aware, and then they become advocates, they become allies, and they become activists. And I think that's what really drives my pride and passion behind really being who I am, and then having a supportive partner, friends and family member who really understand and get it and willing to go out and do the same thing. So I think that's a lot of what helps me be comfortable bringing my full self to work, is just knowing the impact of it for my personal growth, and then also for growth of others that experience it.
Thank you. I think some of the themes that I, maybe not in these particular words, but that I hear is the importance of having these safe spaces, whether it's a safe space that is a person, right, or family. And for some of us, it might be our chosen family, right? Not everybody has perhaps the privilege to have their immediate blood and, family be as supportive, but sometimes we create our own families otherwise. And these safe spaces really give us the courage, whether it's family and friends, but Eva, you also mentioned corporations and teammates and businesses can also really create those safe spaces. I'm curious, we are sponsored by Bank of America, and all of you work at Bank of America. So I'm just curious to hear a little bit more. You introduced your roles and what you're doing, but when now you're working today in today's life, today's world, what are the types of resources that your managers, your company is currently providing as you grow in your career, just professionally, but also, if you can talk a little bit about that queer identity, alongside of that. I don't know if anybody wants to start. If not, Andres, maybe.
You'll volunteer me. That's good. That's good. Look, I think one of the things I love. So I've done a lot of different things at this company. Anything from trading on a trading desk to frontline risk to now where I'm second line risk. Sort of review, and challenge of and acting as a control for it, to help the bank grow sort of its business responsibly. But one of the things that's consistent and is the ability to continue to learn and evolve. There's so much that that you can learn in a particular role that I'm in right now is one where it's just been it feels like it's a constant learning, and everybody that comes on board signs up for the same thing, right? They just have this hunger, this appetite to learn, this curiosity, right? So it's one of the things that I enjoy the most is working in that environment and working with people who also welcome that. But that said, I mean, sometimes you feel like maybe there's a different path that could call to you, and I think internally the bank is I find it's such a large place, and one of the things we've learned, particularly the past couple of years with COVID and sort of the there being a real demand for talent, is that we are our own best sort of recruiters. We have tremendous amounts of talent, and one of the things that the bank is really pushing for is internal mobility, and so we get opportunities as employees to find opportunities internally, that may not be in a sort of traditional path that we would have embarked on if we signed up to be, if we're growing up in the consumer space. There are ways to leap into other areas of bank. If you're in the commercial, in the investment that space, you can go to the other part of the bank as well. So I think that those opportunities for mobility are useful. And the bank is very, I find that they really do prize. I mean, it's not just speak, and it's become sort of a common vernacular that you speak to diversity and inclusion, but it's more about the fact that we really buy into this idea that we don't have all the answers, and we need more people around the table so we can actually forge a path that makes sense for ourselves and for our clients, right? And I think that sort of mindset has really helped me and people on my team feel comfortable that no matter what our background, no matter what our whether as Hispanic, Latino, whether as LGBTQ plus, that we will have, we will be able to have an impact. We will be taken seriously. We will be considered. So that's one of the things that really motivates me to continue here.
Thank you. Eva, I know you've also been with the company for a while, as you mentioned. What has your experience looked like in that regard, and even as you think now moving forward?
Well, I will say that I've been in Colombia and liked what I was doing, and the job just kept growing. So I haven't been one to kind of jump different lines of business, but the opportunity has been there over the years. And I think some of the great things that we have are like our lead group is our women's employee network that I helped start the South Carolina chapter 4 years ago. And we can have, a formal mentorship through there, mentor-mentee relationships. We have them with all the different employee networks so that you can find, it's in a big bank, how you can, again, make something small for you, connect with people one-on-one. And I think there's so many people who are willing to step in those roles in the bank and try to help you navigate the waters and see what opportunities there are. There's some formal things you can do through the HR side in each market that I've seen a lot of participants in as well. Like in our Columbia, South Carolina, the leadership team will pick different people who are maybe kind of at the cusp of doing something different within the bank and bring them all together. And you see a lot of the folks who go through that see something else they might want to do. But I think I feel like the bank gives a lot of opportunities for that because there's just so many people who are just wanting to continue to be challenged.
That's great to hear. Mentorship is definitely important. Alex, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would say all great things. In addition to, I love the education that the bank is doing just around the LGBTQ plus community, from employee networks, to what Eva just spoke to the different types of courageous conversations that we have, such as this. We have very open dialogue, and we make sure that all of our teammates know that it's optional for them to join it, but there's been a hunger for it, right? As Brian mentioned earlier, there's a hunger, so people want to come out, they want to hear people's experiences because of that empowerment to others. We have some people that don't feel comfortable bringing their whole selves to work, and it could be for their own life experiences that brought them to that point. It can be because they just aren't comfortable in general for whatever reason, their own preconceived assumptions. And so it really just opens great dialogue to have a conversation with people who are really people, whether you're a head executive or a financial center teller associate. Everybody has an opportunity to be a part of these platform discussions and bring their whole self exactly as they are and share their experiences, and their opinions are of their own. It's not as a representation of the bank. But I think one thing that it drives is that we are not only diverse, meaning we invite everybody to the party, but we're also inclusive because we invite everybody to dance.
That's awesome. Juan, how about you?
Thanks, Brian. All great items that were discussed and resources that are available to the bank. One component that resonates close to me, being that I've been with the bank a bit more junior now, 3 years, is the focus that the bank has on developing leaders and managers, which I think is equally important. There's a saying that people join companies and leave managers. So you really have to make sure that you're developing talent. It's key. And one component that really sat with me when I joined Bank of America is the fact that while I was a manager and have been managing for 12 plus years, there's still leadership development programs for me as a manager to continue to develop my team. How can I reach out to them? How can I set up plans for them in terms of what their career aspirations are? And as I continue to move along in my career, the skill set of my employees are very different. So when I think about, the type of employees that I may have had 10 years ago versus today, it's a different skill set. It's a different approach that I need to take as a manager, and making sure that, we're developing that leadership and developing those managers is very key. And that's important to me as an employee, as I'm having development conversations with my manager, and they know exactly, what I'm looking for in the next 3 to 5 years, and how I can cascade that down to my team just to make sure that we are able to set a good, clear development plan for them as they continue to move on in their career. That's one component to me that was very different about Bank of America, is the fact that they focus on management and they focus on development at all levels, which is very key. The other component is, me being part of a lot of the employee networking groups at the bank, and some of the executive councils, is how they're all connected. I get notifications all the time about jobs that are open, whether it's in mortgage or whether it's in investments or what have you. I have access to the resources, the hiring managers, if I want to set up time with them, understand more about the roles. So I know what's out there. I know who to connect with. And it's very open in terms of, what are the opportunities that are available for me. So I feel like I have the tools that are needed to both help me as an individual continue my career progression, but also that of my team as I'm managing folks and as I'm looking for opportunities to help them grow as well.
Thank you. This is really, really great to hear, and exciting to hear that our company has all of these resources, right? I'm very, very sure that folks who are currently looking for jobs, will be happy to hear about all of this. Just want to put a reminder out there. If you're listening, please feel free to leave any questions in the comments. We will have a few minutes at the end to answer some of those questions. But before we go into some of those questions, I want to end this particular portion of our conversation today with a little bit of advice. What advice would each of one of you have for people that are looking to be more authentically themselves in the workplace? Juan, I know you were just speaking right now, but I'd love to start with you. What advice do you have?
So yeah, definitely make sure that you reach out to your inner circle. There's folks internally at work that you are able to build a connection with, making sure that you have that support. Uh, it's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be scared. We've all been there and we've had those emotions before in terms of the workplace. But I can tell you, it's very, very different in terms of how the world has evolved over the past 15, 20, 30 years. And, my coming out story was very different. We were in a different place back then, whether we are today. My advice is making sure that as you're thinking about the employer and as you're thinking about your future, focus on doing research on the company, making sure that you go out there and see, how are they in terms of their LGBTQ indexes? Are they highly rated? Talk to employees, see if they have the resources, see how people in the company feel about being gay, being Latino, being out there in the work environment, and gain a first perspective in terms of what the company stands for, and making sure that you have a good feel for the culture that you're going to be entering into. We spend a lot of time at work, more than 40 hours a week with the individuals that you're working with, and company culture is critical. So making sure that you feel like you have the ability to be yourself, that you have the ability to have that support that's available for you when and if you're ready, to making sure that you can bring your whole self is like equally important. So it's critical that you make the right choice, that you go out there, understand what the company stands for, understand the culture, see how they are in terms of diversity, and making sure that it fits the needs and what you're wanting in an employer as well.
That is very, very great advice. Thank you. Eva.
You know, in today's world, and Juan is correct, things have changed a lot in the work environment for the 33 years I've been in it, for sure. If you're working in a place where you can't bring your whole self to work, but you want to, if you're working in a place that you think you wouldn't be accepted, you wouldn't have opportunity, life's too short. Find a place that you can feel at home. So if you're in a job and you're miserable because you just can't be yourself, start looking for someplace else. In today's job market, you're a great find for a company, and take that opportunity to put yourself in a healthier environment. So that's kind of simple, but that's my advice. You owe yourself that. That's what I'd say.
Definitely. Thank you. Andres, would you like to go next?
Sure. I mean, it's tough to follow Eva and Juan. Amazing, great advice. I would say, if you happen to be in a situation where perhaps switching companies is not possible or not desirable or what have you, you could also look for different ways, right? If it's a matter of you're not sure whether this is actually going to be a good thing for you, see what kind of resources are available. See if your company offers any kind of anything that allows employees to network, like the employee networks. We have at BofA, for example, or find a mentor, someone that you feel who knows the culture of your company, and where you can start sort of, bringing, at least with that person, bringing your whole self to work, and see how much better you feel when you actually do that, when you actually have somebody that you can, in your work environment, that gets to see all of you, and see if you see if you detect any improvement in your productivity and in the way your ideas flow, and leverage that as much as you can. I think it's, mentoring is another great way to sort of connect with others around you. You're getting a benefit, but you're providing your mentor with a benefit as well. And so that's another bit of advice if movement is not a possibility.
Thank you. And last but not least, Alex.
These guys have said such great things. I'll just leave you with what I said earlier around um, be okay with making choices. Decide who's a part of your life. Decide who gets to experience any part of you. Decide who gets to experience your professional, your personal journeys. Just be okay with making choices, and not everyone is entitled to that. And just be okay with that, because you need to surround yourself with people who influence you positively. Any sense of negativity or energy that takes from you, decide not to tolerate it. And so with all what all of my peers have said, if it leads you to it's taken from me, be okay with taking and removing yourself from that situation and find the right people to surround yourself with, and move forward. So I think I'll just leave it with that.
Thank you. Um, truly great advice in general. So really thankful for all of your advice. Before we jump into some questions from the audience, and just a reminder, if you're listening to us, please feel free to leave any questions that you have, whether it's about navigating identity as a queer person, as a Latinx person, or even questions about working at Bank of America or open roles, etc., or their particular roles that you've learned about today. Please drop them in the comments. We'll be happy to answer them. But before we jump into that section, Alex, I know we have a short message from Bank of America about some of the roles that are currently available. So pass the stage over to you.
Awesome. Hey, thank you. Hey guys, quickly take out your phone, start taking a picture of this little QR code here. What it is just access to some of the great opportunities we've got at Bank of America. And we embrace all backgrounds, right? Different experiences, educational background. There's different opportunities around finance, accounting, technology. Sometimes when we think of banking, we think of checking and savings account. But there's so much that goes into banking. There's an actual diversity and inclusion line of business. There's a line of business that helps to manage the global risk and economics. There's a lot of different opportunities to grow and navigate your career with Bank of America. And so I invite you to take a quick snap of this. ALPFA will also be sending out the QR code as well, so feel free to look forward to that to come. But if you like to join our team, we've also got a great resource here, Christy Irvin. She's great, made herself available to be reached out to as well. I invite you guys to invite me as well on LinkedIn, but great place to work. Love my company. And as you heard my peers, we all enjoy the work we do. And so we invite you, if you'd like to join a team or at least learn more, feel free to.
Thank you. And if you took a screenshot, I don't know if you've discovered this, but I discovered this recently. If you have a picture of a QR code, you can long press it on the iPhone, and it'll actually open the link for you. It's like magic. So feel free to do that too. And also very thankful for, there's a recruiter here who's very happy to meet with you and make that time. So definitely take advantage of that. We have some questions here that have come in. Please keep them coming as you plan for, as you think of them. Please feel free to drop them in the comments. One of the questions that came in is, in the last 2 years, things have been a little bit crazy with COVID. Curious to hear, how did Bank of America, since you all are there, support you through that? Are you thinking differently about your career post-pandemic? In that, anybody want to take that one?
I can kick us off, Brian. So you're right. It's been a wild world since the pandemic over the last 2 years. But I must say, being with the bank about 3 years, the majority of the time was during the pandemic. So I was probably 8 or 9 months in before the pandemic actually happened. So that was a real testament in terms of would the company be able to deliver to me as a newer type employee, being that I wasn't able to interact with people face to face a lot more. I wasn't going into the office. We were all stuck at home. Was there that ability to still feel connected, to still feel a company culture that I was still sort of getting to know, being that I was only 8 months in? And, I must say that the bank really delivered through that time. And I would say in all aspects of it. early on, it was just communication, notification, making sure that we were taken care of as individual, sending masks to our homes, making sure that we knew exactly where to go, what resources were available. If for some reason you ended up having COVID, like who to call, EAP numbers, making sure that, you had all the resources in place, that you had the ability to be able to work from home, whether you needed monitors, whether you needed printer, that you had access to all those resources, that you were able to do the exact same job that you were doing in the office at home. One of the items that really hit home close to me, and I don't even have any kids, was the fact that they were offering childcare services for parents. And I'm like, you know what? That's huge. Parents are at home, they're with their kids, but they want to make sure that their kids are still advancing, that they have access to that healthcare. And the fact that the bank was providing funds for parents in order to keep that going, to me, just so shows the testament of ensuring that the company's there for you and that you have that level of support. And outside of the benefits and outside of making sure that while we were at home staying safe, it's the fact that we try to make it a fun work environment. So, there were a lot of times that we would be able to get together for virtual happy hours or to have team building activities within our various areas. And that tried to keep us all connected during a time that it was very difficult since we were all stay at home. So while it was a very difficult period for most during the pandemic, I must say from a work perspective, professional perspective, I was very happy, and I was just very keen and felt that support from my employer, which was very important to me.
Thank you. Anybody else want to add anything to that?
I would add that go ahead, Eva.
I was just going to say and I know we mentioned courageous conversations before, but when everybody was at home, and in our line of business, everybody was at home, we were all emotionally worn down, and then we didn't know what depths we could go to with George Floyd, and it was so emotional, and the bank would, just groups of us had courageous conversations with a panel like this, and our groups getting together and people calling each other at home and just having conversations, checking in on each other. That side of it was just good emotional support. I was blown away by everything Juan said too, the regular benefits, the things they did for us, that just seemed over the top ridiculous, like they're just bringing in lunch every day for the financial centers because they can't, they're having to go outside of their home and they're trying to keep them as safe as possible. So lunch every day, that kind of thing. But what they really did that touched my heart was so many of the ways that they worked on our emotional and mental wellness through all of it.
Thank you. Andres.
I kind of was going in the same direction as Eva, and I think the one thing that was maybe emblematic of that time, and you'll recall the beginning of the pandemic there was a lot of market volatility, and the markets terribly, people were very anxious, people were worried about losing their job, and one of the things that the chairman came out and said is, we're not going to fire anyone this year. We know it's going to be a tough year. The profitability is not going to be there, but this is, we're going to hold on to our team, and that, believe it or not, that gives you a level of mental stability in times of stress that, cannot be overstated. So that's what I was going to touch on.
That was huge. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have another question here, and this one's specific to Alex. This also resonated with me in something you said around being at peace with having to let some people in places go. And I guess the question is, how did you get to that point, and how do you make those decisions? Curious, and if anybody else wants to add anything as well, feel free. But Alex, have any thoughts around that?
I'm trying to take myself back. That's a great question. I will say that it comes a point, well, you'll get tired of compromising yourself. And when you see people who aren't supportive, and you see people who find joy in, I guess, attacking you in different ways, your tolerance level starts to lower. And then so what I started to do in addition is I started to seek out ways to invest in myself. So whether that was watching a YouTube video about being comfortable who you are, or bringing your whole self, I did a lot of self investing, like reading certain books, and then being a leader within the organization. I pride myself on how I lead my team and the connections that I make with my team. And so I found ways to also develop myself in leadership with the bank resources, as well as reading books like You Can If You Think You Can, or How to Win Friends and Influence People. And just creating that awareness of understanding people, it also gave me a lot more courage and confidence, and really walking in my foot and my shoes, right? And not just wearing other people's shoes, but really walking in my own shoes. And so you'll get to a point where you're like, nah, I'm not tolerating this. I am who I am, and who I'm not, I'll never be. And you got to be okay with that. And so when you get to that point, and if you find yourself getting to a place where you do get tired and you don't really know, think about what's the major priority. The major priority is you. So every decision you make, every move you make, every step you take, you are the one who gets to experience that life. You're the one that gets to build your career. You're the one that gets to build what your family looks like, right? There's destiny, and within destiny, there's a lot of decisions that you've got to make. And so be intentional with the decisions you make, and just be okay with, again, removing certain people out of your life that aren't influences of positivity, because you'll get tired and you'll know who those people are. And so when they get revealed, don't compromise what you learn about them. What you do is start making decisions. And when you make decisions, what you'll find is it actually gets a lot easier. and you start to create this circle of people that are just loving and trusting. I'll just say real quick, my friend group and my family is amazing. My girlfriend Keisha is amazing. I have some of the most amazing people that surround me. And they continue to applaud me for my life experiences, and I continue to applaud them for their life experiences. And so you've got this circle of friends and family that really just continue to invest nothing but good positivity. And it actually makes you think differently about, like, what's next in your career, what's next, what do you want to accomplish from your personal life experiences. There's a lot of empowerment and then new ideas that come from surrounding yourself with the right people. So I hope that answers your question, but I would say that'd be my advice.
Thank you. I think so. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything. No pressure. If not, we have a couple other questions. I think, Eva, you mentioned that you were part of the group of people that started in your local area a chapter for the women's group. I don't know if anybody else in the panel has had an experience starting any ERGs within your roles, whether it's an LGBTQ plus one or another one. But one of the questions is, if I want to start an LGBTQ plus ERG in my company, do you have any advice? So it could be LGBTQ plus, or it could be a different one. I'm assuming it's similar process. Eva, would you like to start?
I might turn it over to these folks. I'll say within Bank of America, they're just such great resources that you can just copy what else has been done and have different areas give you support. So we, just went to people who've done it right and where they've had success, and had meetings with them, got advice from them, and then use the awesome tools that were within the bank. But I'd love to hear their thoughts.
I can chime in on that. It's funny you bring that up. The team and I here in Northern Nevada, I'm actually in Vegas right now, but Northern Nevada, we had our first employee event. So we recently lifted the restrictions on having in-person meetings as we continue to assess the environment. Our CEO has said, it's time for us to start to get back together. And so we had our first event, and all of our teammates across Northern Nevada came out. And we had, we had good eats, we had beverages and so forth. And there was just a lot of mingling. And what I didn't recognize is because we got so great at working in the virtual environment, that these people hadn't met each other in person. And so it was so powerful for everybody. And I'm seeing my team meet each other, and I'm like, wait a minute, you know Jacqueline? And they're like, no, I've never met her in person. And so we had this session where we rotated rooms across our leadership team of groups coming in and learning about different things. And one of the things we talked about was employee networks. And so one of the questions came up several times is, how do we get a network established here? And so what we learned is that first we've got to get the people interested. So we've got to have enough support within the local market and within the company of people who want to devote that extra time towards networking and investing in developing other people. And so we've got to find the leaders that want to do it. We've got to find the teammates that want to do it. And then we've got to have the commitment of doing it on a consistent basis. So not creating moments of networking, but creating movements of networking where it's ongoing and it happens all the time. You've got the right people involved. So I would say first get with leadership, understand, what is the taste of your company in the market. And then as you do so, start to get it out there and invite people out, have those mingling sessions, and then find topics that people want, whether it's courageous conversations. We got topics of, how do I communicate effectively? I get very nervous when I get to speak in front of people. I would love to develop that part of myself. And so you start to find those topics that the people want, and then you start creating content and inviting people out. And then what happens is it starts to explode, and then the big bosses start to see it, and then that's how things start to happen. So that's from my perspective. I don't know if any of my peers want to add anything to that.
Yeah,
I will say we took our state president and a few of my peers, so it did help. Alex, you're right. We started with the state president, and she really wanted it to happen. And we have a statewide chapter since we're a small state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the one piece that I would add is, if you're thinking about doing it, do it. You just can't keep it to yourself. Make sure that you start communicating and start using the resources that are available to you. I know internally here at Bank of America, we have processes and tools and resources in place to get an employee networking group off the ground, ensuring that, there is a diversity and inclusion council that listens to you in terms of if you're interested in starting a new ENG, and making sure that you have the right resources available to you. They team you up with the right folks, mentors. They work with you in terms of how to start the recruiting, how to reach out to folks, how to get folks to sign up. So, it's ensuring that you're also doing research in terms of what are some of the resources that are available as you're thinking about starting up a new employee networking group. I think that's very key and critical. But it's mostly, as my peer stated, is making sure that you get the word out there and making sure that you're interacting with people, and that, they're aware that there's a new employee networking group that you're thinking of starting, or that you're thinking of implementing, and, how to go about that, leveraging your resources.
Definitely. The reality is that if you're thinking about it, somebody else probably also had a similar thought. So, it's about making those connections. Andres, would you like to add anything?
Just borrow those ideas, and things that work for one group or in one situation, maybe a business situation, will also work to connect, with your fellow employees and people that are like-minded, right? So, I think this sort of basically echoes what Juan, Alex, and Eva had already said, right? Which is, take that step to get the ideas going. Come up with an idea. Grab 5 people. Say, I really like to kind of dig into this topic and get your thoughts on it, because I really like to learn from you. And oh, by the way, it's a networking opportunity.
Yes. Even if the resources might not exist at your company, as fantastic as it is at Bank of America, maybe your company doesn't have those, but you definitely have other people you can connect with and start those conversations, and it'll take you there. I know we're coming towards the end of our conversation today, and I just wanted to give a little bit of space for all of you to, if you have any final thoughts or anything that you'd like to leave, if somebody, like one key takeaway that you want somebody to take, what would that be? I don't know if we want to start with you, Andres.
No pressure. One key look, there's so many great things have been said tonight, but look, you need to find what's going to work for you to become that authentic person in the workspace. And I think we're talking about this in the context of a workspace. You need to find out what's going to help you get to that place where you can be open, and that, recognize that everybody's situation is different and everybody's stage of development is different. But I think what's on the other side of it, and I can only speak from my own experience, what's on the other side of it is so much richer, and what you're able to not only get from the people you work with, but also what you're able to deliver yourself is multiplied when you achieve that level. So definitely, it's worth the struggle.
Thank you. Juan, would you like to go next?
Sure. I mean, some, parting words, and I wish I would have taken this advice earlier, but, the number one asset to a company is its people. So you are an extremely valuable asset. Prior to me joining Bank of America, I spent 18 years at the same firm, and I was very comfortable there. But, I wish I could have done more research in terms of what else is out there, seeing what other firms, what other opportunities are out there, because it's been such an amazing experience in terms of making that transition, getting out of my comfort zone and taking a risk. So it's definitely worth the reward. So, go out there, see what's available, do the research, and understand that you are a very, very valuable asset to the company that you work for.
Thank you. Eva?
I'll say these guys said some wonderful things the whole time. I took some notes, but I think hearing from them each a little bit is, as you grow through a process yourself, maybe look for your work life to have that opportunity to grow. So if you're comfortable with something now, but you're pretty guarded about things, be at a place where you can, when you feel more open, that employer is ready, your workforce is, your work life is ready to receive you, and so that it's open for your growth whenever you are ready to take a step, because I think we all are a work in process.
True. Alex?
Talk about pressure, guys. And I'll just refer back to my earlier statement, and everything they said. I think it encompasses, guys, who you are is who you are, and who you are not, you'll probably likely never be. Doesn't mean that there's not developments along the way, but who you are, stay true to who you are, and then who you're not, you'll probably never be. I'll always be Alex. Andres will always be Andres. Juan will be Juan. Eva will be Eva. Brian will be. It will always be who we are. There's evolutions to who you are, but don't ever compromise who you are. Right. So be proud of who you are. Take pride in being the person you are, because you bring something unique that others won't. And if you ever compromise who you are, then we'll never get that uniqueness. So I'll leave you with that.
Those are some beautiful words to end with. I am so thankful that you all took the time to be with me here today. Thank you for sharing, for being vulnerable, for sharing your journey with everyone. And thank you for your wise words. I know I'm taking them to heart, and I'll definitely be applying a lot of the things I heard here today. Thank you to Bank of America for this conversation, and ALPFA for hosting us today. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.